Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday, the 29th day of December 2022. Well, if it's the 29th day, then we have an 11 numerology for the day, which is cool. 11, 33, 22, they're all master numbers. And so for me, it's like dealing with the major arcana or the Elder Futhark or what have you. It's soul archetype stuff. It's the chance for the soul to understand what the journey is and what its expression should be, and bringing that energy into physical form, into affecting what the ego or the personality wants to do. To maybe raise it up a little bit and make it not be so selfish and all of that. So 11 is about enlightenment. It's about awakening. It's spirituality. So a spiritual day today. So that's kind of cool. Let's go ahead though. Let's see if I can take some of this out so I can actually see what I'm doing here. Where's my delete key? There it is there. I want to raise the esoteric influences up a little bit on this without making my window bigger. And that way, okay, I think I'm good now. All right, a little housekeeping there. Well, if this is your first time here, welcome. We're the last reading for the year 2022, if you haven't been here, I do this on Mondays and Thursdays. So we'll be back again on Monday, but we'll see what this reading tells us. I did a 3-card reading for 2023, and if you want to see that, that's over on the blog over at Stepping Aside at imsteppingaside.com. If you forget that web address, you can click on Show More, scroll down a bit below the description of what I'm doing here, and you'll start to see some links, and Stepping Aside is right there, up there toward the top of that, or maybe it is at the top of that anyway. But you can go over there and just scroll down and find that tarot reading. It should be one of the first few that are there. And you can check out what I saw there. But I think that we'll see what we get today. And so let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to do first is we're going to read the esoteric influences for today. And again, I've updated how I do that. I've combined 2 posts together. I think it'll give you an idea. It's based on the planetary governors of each day. Today is Thursday, so Jupiter governs Thursday. Jupiter's currently in the 2nd house, Aries. And you're still feeling rebellious if those around you attempt to control your choices. It's that Aries influence, and Jupiter is expansive, so watch that. Your possessions are still defining your self-worth, that's 2nd house, and it may be wise to view outside input as concern rather than as control. And it may be that you've lost perspective and are making choices that will undermine your financial security. So just kind of be aware of that. And if someone says something, don't get your back up at it. Maybe there's something valuable in what they're saying and they're just concerned about you. So be aware of that. And that's going to be that's Jupiter's influence for all week long, actually, but for the rest of the week until Sunday when they come out again. And now for today, the 29th, we have I take information from the 11 numerology. Vunyo is the rune I drew from the Elder Futhark bag for today. Karser was the Geomancy rune. Vunyo is about joy and happiness and all of that. Karser is about imprisonment, usually self-imprisonment or restrictions you place on yourself. Most insignificantly, the most insignificant effect of Karser might be something coming to an end of some kind, which is kind of weird, but it's stopping anything from happening. Maybe that's a better way of looking at it. But mostly Karser is considered to be an evil influence, so I try not to see it that way unless everything is dovetailing toward that. But in all likelihood, between Vunyo and Karser, we're looking at just maybe some self-imposed restriction on being happy, basically. The seventh ray again is active. It's active all next week as the strongest ray influence, and so that's bringing soul down into form. Basically, it's and on a lesser personality level, you're talking about organizational skills, really. And to top it off, Mercury turns retrograde today. So if you've been noticing some things for the last week or so where communication isn't very good, or there's some negative results from a lack thereof, I know some folks that have experienced that, and it's not good. So not their problem, but someone else's problem. So anyway, that's called being in the shadow phase of it. So anyway, now we're in the direct phase of it. And so for the next 3 weeks, don't sign contracts. Don't, if your electronics go wonky, well, that's why. You need to really be aware of what you say and how you say it, and how you hear it. Not just the things that come out of your mouth, but how are you taking what other people are saying? Because miscommunication can happen during this time for some people. Sometimes Mercury retrograde doesn't seem to impact people, and I don't know why it does for one and why it doesn't, doesn't for another. I don't know why, but maybe you breeze right through these times. Maybe you just don't pay attention. I don't know. But if you notice this, again, you'll have a shadow period before and after, like a week before, a week after, give or take, sometimes a little bit more. And then there you go, then you're out of it. So I don't know. But for today, Mercury turns retrograde today and could impact interactions. However, don't let your own self-imposed restrictions keep you from engaging with others. This is a time to reconnect with family and friends and to leave any issues you've encountered in the past. Take a higher perspective, and others may follow suit and do the same, which is basically just what I just said. But anyway, let me move this out of the way here so I can see what I'm doing. All right. Let's go ahead and, again, if you haven't been here before, and those of you who have, thank you so much for coming back and spending this last day of the year, or the well, not the last day of the year, but the last reading of the year with me. I'm going to draw a rune from the Elder Futhark bag, and then I'm going to throw down the elemental runes to discover the Geomancy rune. And that will be the significator for the reading, sort of the overall perspective of it, or idea of it. And then the 3 cards I draw minimum, I can draw another one. I've done as many as 5, but usually the 3 is enough to give the details of whatever is the runes are talking about. Once in a while, though, it will seem to not match up at all. So, but that happens very rarely. Usually I can find a way to do that. So anyway, today we have Kenaz, and again, with the 11 numerology and awakening and enlightenment, Kenaz is the light, it's the torch, it's clarity. And it, when it's open in this direction, it's the clarity and the light of spirit that you extend to other people. There was something here, Othala, the last rune of the Elder Futhark, is completely comprised of Kenaz. You can see it. I have it all over the place there. Some of it's turned inward. This actually looks like Inguz, but Inguz is the light turned inward. That's the sudden release of energy into form, so manifestation, growth. It can be about the seed, where it's expanding and all of that, but it's that inner expansion that creates the growth. And then down here, the bottom part, you have Gebo, and so that's extending that light out to other people. So that's another way to look at Othala. But I was just cleaning my desk, and so I had that sitting right there. I don't like to do that and then throw it away. I like to just leave it there, but sometimes it all gets covered up and I have to do it again when I want to show you an exploded version of a rune and to see the fundamental energies that go into it, particularly if Kenaz is one of them. Kenaz is just an extremely powerful rune. Of course, it's fire element, and so it's creativity. It's the spark of life. So again, motivation, new opportunities, new growth. And so you can see why Kenaz probably aligns really, really well for the most part Although it could do well with 33 as well, but the 11 numerology, the 11 master number of awakening and enlightenment, obviously that's Kenaz, right? So let's bring these here and see what I've got. So I have a single dot for fire. Where's air? There's air. 2 for air, 1 for water, and 2 for earth. So we're looking at a missio. Let's see, where's a missio here in my bowl so I can show you what that looks like. That's acquisitio. I can show you that if I can't find a missio. There it is. A missio and acquisitio are complements of one another. They're the two sides of the same coin. This would be acquisitio or gain, and this would be, well, turn it upside down. This would be a missio or loss. Now, this can be manifested into physical reality that way, in terms of, say, material security, gain and loss financially. But you can also interpret these energetically as just an increase of something and a decrease of something, right? And so if you were having tension with someone, a missio could actually mean the lessening of that. So you have to kind of think very broadly when you look at these two particular runes. But it could be loss that you're experiencing, emotional loss. It could be, again, the ending of something or the lessening of something, the decrease of something. So acquisitio's increase, emissio's decrease. And so let's just keep an open mind about this. There could be, as a result of the clarity of Kenaz, it could bring light to something and reduce, some negative perception, hostilities. In other words, some truth comes into play. And so whatever you're thinking may you might go, oh, okay, that's what it was. And so whatever you're thinking kind of reduces and goes away and diminishes it, right? Because it's not valid. And maybe you could say it invalidates something, and whereas acquisitio might validate something. So you can see that process of increase and decrease at work with those particular runes. So don't get hung up in the idea if you're working with geomancy, you're working with geomancy runes. If you don't get hung up in the idea of acquisitio and emissio being purely financial. It literally, it can be a positive thing to have a missio show up, especially if it's the lessening of tension and the lessening of maybe deception, the lessening of anything that's causing you trouble. So maybe it's an issue's getting solved, for example. And again, with Kenaz, with so much clarity coming through with Kenaz, it kind of feels to me like that's where we're headed with this. But let's see. We'll see what the cards have to say. And I've already shuffled some. I've run the tuning fork with the frequency for the third eye over my ground chakra and my third eye chakra, and on both sides of on both ears. So I got to listen to it, and I just love doing that prior to a reading, because it just seems to get my awareness focused a little bit in a different direction, in a higher direction than otherwise. And so if I'm kind of in a weird mood when I walk in, I do that and the mood goes away, and I'm more apt to be a little more objective about things than if I'm not. So, all right, we have one from the court, one from the lower minor arcana, and one from the major arcana. So we've got really all sections of the tarot covered here. We start with the Nine of Wands, we move to the Five of Cups, and then we go to the Empress, which is card 3 of the major arcana. So 5 and 8 is 3. There's no number associated with the court. But you've got, so 5 and 3 is 8. So we've got strength, inner strength, material recognition and approval, leadership, all of that for the numerology of 8. So let's start with the knight. I'm not sure about the, I may end up moving these around. I may end up adding another card. But let's read it and see what we need. Here we have the Knight of Wands. We see a knight on a horse. His horse is rearing back, ready to go. You can see they're in the Holy Land because of the pyramids there in Egypt. His visor is up, so this is not, none of the knights in any of the suits are none of the 4 knights in the tarot are in battle. Their visors are always up, and so they're not in battle. They're there really to be out on a quest somewhere, out on a new journey, either on behalf of the king or on behalf of their own spirituality. It was not uncommon for them to take the hearts of rulers to the Holy Land, to Jerusalem, for the Knights Templar to do that. Whether or not this doesn't indicate that it's a Templar knight, but any knight could be involved in something like that. But knights are typically about quests, and so they're out there exploring. They've gone through the page aspect of life, the younger aspect where they're a student and they're learning, and now they're done with that, and now they're making their way on behalf of others typically. Even if they're out there on a spiritual quest for themselves, it's really for other people. But here you see the salamander. It's an elemental for the for fire element, but you can see right here the circular nature of it. Now it's interesting that it's not completely, well, one over here is completely biting its tail, but but maybe not. Maybe not. It just seems like there's a little bit of airspace. There's not complete connectivity, which is kind of interesting. Usually when you see this on the king, you'll see it on the back of his throne, and you'll see and the salamander is actually biting its tail to make an Ouroboros figure, basically. So he's not quite there yet, on his journey. But not the Knight of Wands is he's adventurous, he's passionate, he's a young man, obviously he's protective, he's action oriented, he's progress oriented, he's willing to take risks, especially if it's on behalf of other people to save them, basically. And so let's see what this has to do. The fact that he's going, one other thing I want to mention, some point this way, some point I'm doing this backwards. This way. If it's this way, it's toward the future. If it's this other way, it's toward the past. And so, in a sense, he might be going there to gain enlightenment about a situation that's happened, and he maybe he's trying to find some truth about it. Maybe he's trying to discover some kind of a solution to something that has already happened. But even with it, because the others feel like they're offering something in the future. So cups and earth are going to go in that direction. That's also a receptive side of self where there's maybe a little more compassion, a little more protection involved. On the active side, the Knight of Swords and the Knight of Wands are going to be more, getting into it and exploring and being the more active presence of the 4 knights. But we'll see with the clarity and the lessening of something and some kind of lessening of something due to the clarity. Maybe that's what's spurred him on to go and search for truth, maybe, or search for some kind of solution or some kind of understanding or something. But here, see, and we could almost have put this one first, and we might end up ultimately reading it that way, but let's see. Here we have the 5 of cups. You see 2 cups behind him standing up. The 3 before him are spilled on the ground. They're turned over. You see a small creek or little river. It doesn't look very big. In front of him right here, you see likely it could be 2 arches here. Usually these arched bridges have 3, excuse me, but here at least we see 2. So there's a lack of balance here. The 2 would suggest balance, and here you can see there's a lack thereof, a lack of emotional balance. This is about grief and loss. Again, loss, if this is emotional, okay, if Amicio is emotional, he's lacking clarity, right? from Kenaz on this. And he's got his head down. He's wearing a black robe. All of this, and you can see the castle, the small castle off in the distance there across the river or across the creek. But he is basically something has happened. 5 is about change. It's almost like life is going on without him, maybe, with the river or creek there moving on. But he can't really see the 2 cups behind him. He's turned away from them. And he's just consumed with some kind of grief, some kind of loss. Again, there's been a change in circumstances. And so I'm really thinking that the night may end up going at the very end. We might take one more card, though, to figure out if maybe there's some kind of explanation for what happened here with the 5. But some kind of change has happened. Something's happened, and he, his emotions are just, he's just in a lot of grief, a lot of loss, a lot of upset, and things are just a mess. With the 3 cards the 3 cups on the ground spilled over. His emotions are just really, really profound at this point. It reminds me of when, this is terrible, but my 3-year-old grandson, when he was 2, he was about 2.5, or maybe not quite. My husband he wanted a banana, and so my husband cut one in half and handed the half to him, and he went like this. And I went, oh my God. And so I asked his sister, I said, can we give him a whole banana? And she's like, yeah. And so I grabbed it away from him. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, Grandpa, so sorry. But this one reminds me of my grandson just hanging his head because he didn't get a whole banana. And so my husband got him a whole banana, and he was happy, But it was like, I'm a big boy, Grandpa. I can handle the whole thing, And of course, we didn't know. We just thought, well, we'll give him half, maybe offer his sister half, but oh no. But this is what this reminds me. It's just like, oh, I'm just completely, blown away that my grandfather couldn't understand that I'm a big boy now, barely 2.5. But anyway, that's what it reminds me of. But anyway, here we have the Empress. Now, when I see the Empress, I think be gentle on yourself. And corresponding with the 5, clearly, he needs a hug, basically, from the Empress. But sometimes that hug's got to come from yourself, and it's letting yourself off the hook, letting your emotions off the hook, and letting some of it go, and not being so focused on something that happened. At some point, even in grief, you have to move on. You can't stay stuck there. And with the 5, everything is so... It doesn't feel situational as much as it feels like, oh my God, I'm stuck there, and my life is over, my everything is over, and so it's like totally overreacting to something. But again, maybe not. It depends on the other cards around him. So here we have, and I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to put the knight at the very end. I'm going to start the reading with the 5. So something's happened, and you're feeling at a loss of something. And now you are either going to have to heal from it with the Empress, or you're going to have to let yourself off the hook emotionally. You're going to have to allow love to return, basically. But she's the mother principle. She's the mother aspect. You've got the Emperor as the father aspect, although I don't feel he holds as much weight, because I believe the Empress gives birth to the universe, and gives birth to creation. So basically, she's the great mother. And she represents the womb. She's actually pregnant in this. Although you can't really see it so much right here, but on some versions of the card you can really tell that she's with child. She's about abundance. You see abundance all around her. She's very receptive. She's about beauty. You see the glyph for Venus here on the heart-shaped shield. And she's also very successful. She's got a beautiful crown. You can't really see the lower part of this too well, but there's actually 3 levels of it. So it'd be the triplicity of the goddess, maiden, mother, and crone. She holds again a scepter in her right hand, and her left hand is resting comfortably on her left knee. So the way out of the emotional loss is to sit with those feelings, not deny them, but just to sit with them and understand their greater message, understand and accept what's happened that's created this feeling, and allow the light of spirit with Kenaz to come in and illuminate with this 11 numerology, as well today, the Master 11, come in and let the light of spirit, the light of your soul, come in and give you a better or higher understanding or more overall understanding of what's really happening. If it's the loss of someone you love, either in a relationship, or maybe there's been a death in the family or something, maybe you have to come to terms with that. But even if it's not something that extreme, there could be just a loss in circumstances here having to do with the material security of his home, because you can see it over there, and he's away from it. He's not at the home. He's away from the home, and he's having to contend with some kind of massive change. Maybe a job loss, maybe the crops didn't in other words, the paycheck wasn't what you thought it would be, and so you don't really know how you're going to manage your life at this point, and so it just signals, though, with the way he's hanging his head, this is some profound loss due to some change that was significant, and you're not really sure of the direction to go yet, and it may feel like everything else is passing you by, and you can't, you're not really integrated in a way that flows with other people. I mean, that's real water element stuff there. But in comes the Empress, and she's asking you to heal, to take a higher perspective, and to actually see things maybe in a cyclical way, that maybe things are down at the moment, but they're going to come back up again. So you understand the flow of life. This again with Venus here. You're looking at love, you're looking at the water element. I mean you see earth in this, everything, all the elements are contained within the Empress, but at the same time, it's a higher perspective, a soul perspective, where whatever you lost here, you can give birth to something new here. All right, especially in terms of when you look at her from the standpoint of fertility in the womb and giving birth to something, just because something may be over and it's a little devastating. Maybe you had to close a business for whatever reason. But maybe the business itself you work for closed, and you're having to deal with the emotional, you have to go tell your family or something, and that's a tough one, and so you're hanging back and you're not really sure what to do with all of this change that's happened, and these are just ideas. I'm not saying that any of this is actually happening. There could be some other thing that's going on in your life that this will resonate for you, but just know that whatever has happened, you can give birth to something new. And again, with the 3, you're talking about a certain type of balance, mind, body, spirit balance. You're talking about balanced interaction as well. 3 can also indicate communication. So in that regard, today, with Mercury being in retrograde, maybe some of this was happening in the shadow period, or it happened yesterday, or it happened this morning, and now you have to figure out a way to deal with it. Maybe there was a massive miscommunication where feelings were hurt, and you feel at a loss. You don't know what to do about that. It could be anything here. But the Empress coming in suggests that there's new opportunities, there's new growth possible, and you have, with healing as a component. And so whatever emotions are going on here for whatever is happening in your life that this may align with, there is healing possible. And from that healing, from that greater awareness of Kenaz, that light of spirit, that torch coming in and providing clarity, you can then let go of what was and do your own version of a missio, and let go of what's going on in the 5, and then move forward looking for new opportunities. After you've gone ahead and gotten your perspective and understood the whole picture, and now you're ready to, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and go on, basically. Whether this is about relationships, or whether this is about a work situation or something at home, or what have you, something has happened, and maybe we can get an idea of what that is. Let's just take one more card. We're kind of at 30 minutes here, so I'll do this quickly and just see if there's anything we can gain from it. I'm going to take the 13th card. And that's just my process. You don't have to do that when you do tarot. But, oh yeah, well, a decision has to be made. So you've got the loss. Something's happened. It's affecting you emotionally, whatever it is. And now a decision needs to be made. And it needs to be made dispassionately. Okay? Now this can be after. It can appear after the Empress, where maybe this is the decision to let things go. Maybe it's the decision to heal. But she's blindfolded. Her back is against the water. Her back is against the emotions. So whatever decision she needs to make has to be done dispassionately, without emotion. So it literally can go, it can either go underneath if you want, because I've got them laid out on the table here. You could either put this underneath the 5, or you could put it either before or after the Empress. You could read the Empress as, okay, you've got the emotions going haywire in the 5, and now you need to find a way to heal. There are new opportunities out there. There's abundance out there for you. All is not lost, like this card feels like, So there is the ability to give birth to something new, and so whatever that is, you have to make a dispassionate decision about what that is, and then you're going to move on your own quest for some new opportunity. Maybe it's spiritual in nature, maybe moving from a more egoic emotional reaction to one that maybe is more spiritual, if you want to look at it in terms of just ego versus soul. Maybe you could look at it that way. But if not, if something has happened that's caused you profound grief, you have the ability to heal. You have the ability to know that there's abundance there for you. That's the truth of the matter, that you can give birth to something new. You're going to have to make a decision that's dispassionate and not led by your emotions. This is the air element with swords, and so you're talking about decisions, you're talking about observation, you're talking about interactions. And again, if Mercury retrograde is impacting some of this, it could be some misunderstanding or miscommunication that caused this. And so you have to clear it all out and give birth to some other type of perception. You have to do it dispassionately, keeping the emotion out of it. Blindfolding yourself to the noise all around you. You have to go within and make that decision in alignment in spirit, basically. And then you can move on and seek out new opportunities. So again, this could be about a variety of different situations that could have incited this. But at the same time, with Mercury in retrograde, it could be that there's misunderstanding that's happened. You've gotten upset, and you need to let go of that and realize that, at least consider the possibility that it was simply a miscommunication, either on the part of the other person, where he or she expressed herself badly, maybe in a way that was just very emotional, and it was an outburst, and in retrospect, they really don't think that, or they're really not trying to say that, or maybe they're exaggerating something, and then you become very, bereft by it all, and very upset by it all, and maybe there is an opportunity for healing to come in, with the Empress, and that's a powerful influence there. Where you allow the other person to say, you know what, I didn't mean that, or if it's you that overreacted, it's like, wow, I really took what you said as something way worse than what it was, so that's on me. There's a lot of ways to see this, but the Two of Swords is really saying that whatever happens here has to be done. The decision that you make has to be done outside that moment. Where emotions are not affecting you, too much mind work is not affecting you. You're trying to, well, it's this, it's that, and you're trying to find all these excuses and all these reasons for why, and all, just let all of that go and put the blindfold on, turn your back to all of it, and align in spirit and find out what the real truth of the decision that you need to make is. Okay, so that's the main. This is an extremely important card, I think, in the tarot. It's it's a card that we can all take with us every single day, so that we control our reactions, because most of us are very reactionary people. And we jump to conclusions. And so with the Two, she's saying, don't do that. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't let emotions guide this decision you need to make about what you need to do here. And then when that happens, then pursue the new opportunity, pursue the new quest for truth, for honor, for dignity, for all of that, for clarity. And given that you see that this is the Holy Land over here with the 3 pyramids, let spirituality come into play. And maybe that's, you need to see things. Maybe the Knight of Wands is suggesting that's what you need to do ultimately. From here to here, you might begin in this level of severe loss and profound grief, but at some point you've got to take the bull by the horns and say, no, I'm going to go and I'm going to see this from a spiritual perspective, and I'm not going to let ego drive. Again, don't let ego drive whatever decision you need to make. And the other part about the Knight of Wands, whenever I see him, there's a sense of freedom there. And so it gives you, one of the things about the 5, the numerology of 5, is freedom versus restriction. Here is restriction, here is freedom. And in the midst of it all is healing, a dispassionate decision, and spirituality. Spirituality gives you far more freedom than the ego does. Okay? So that's a really esoteric way to end the reading. But again, I think that's probably a better overall idea of this than trying to get really specific about what this could be, because this could be any number of things that someone is in profound grief about, right? So anyway, I think that's it. Interesting way to end the last reading of the year. But hang in there. All the snow was gone yesterday and the day before, and the dome that that mushed in and collapsed. My husband went out and, he manned it up, and it's now back to normal. It's normal shape. And so at some point it just popped up, but we only have one piece, it looks like, one of the star hubs in it that the PVC tubes fit into. One part of it is broken, and so we have an extra one, and so we had extra ones when we bought the thing, and it's so he's going to go fix it eventually, go and replace that. But right now it's fine, it's back to normal, and I don't have to be sick when I drive by it when I'm driving out the driveway. And so I have my dome greenhouse back. So anyway, everything looks fine. The blueberries inside are fine and everything, But anyway, we woke up this morning and there's, about yay much snow on the ground. I'm like, oh, geez. One snow event is enough. I don't see why I need another one, but hopefully that's not going to be the case. It looks really wet and sloshy, so it's probably gonna go away today. But at least I can get out of my driveway, so that's a good thing. Anyway. But listen, have a good new year. Be safe. COVID is here. I know people want to get together, but good Lord, every time I see somebody get together with people, somebody comes down with COVID, or the whole family comes down with COVID. It's just like, we've been through enough of this, and So have a fancy mask on, put your KN95 or whatever over, and then put like a sequined one over it if you want to, if you're going to go and be around people. But protect yourself, and be safe. And I don't know. Happy New Year, and we'll see you again on the 2nd of January 2023. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.